Senator from Tennessee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank the senator from Alabama for his remarks. I've come to the floor to discuss bipartisan legislation that he and I, as he said, plan to introduce as soon as next week to encourage the Trump administration to reconsider the dangerous steps that it's taking to impose tariffs on imported automobiles and automotive parts. I use the word dangerous, Mr. President, because nothing has done more during the last 40 years to raise family incomes in Tennessee than the arrival of the auto industry, and nothing could do more damage to those family incomes than the proposed tariffs on imported automobiles and automotive parts, combined with the tariffs on imported steel and aluminum that the administration has already imposed. Mr. President, we've heard the senator from Alabama talk about his state. In my view, Tennessee's more likely to be hurt than any other state by these tariffs. Let me tell you a short story to explain why I would use such a dramatic statement. 40 years ago, I walked 1,000 miles across Tennessee in my campaign for governor. In Rutherford County, outside Nashville, I spent the night with the Knight family. Mrs. Knight told me that her twin boys were bright, but that she was sad because, as she put it, there are no jobs around here, and they're smart boys, and they'll never get a job here, and I will never see my grandchildren. 40 years ago, Mr. President, there were no auto jobs in Tennessee. We were the third poorest state. Our family incomes were the third lowest. Our low-paying textile jobs were fleeing outside of our country. Unemployment and inflation were high and prospects were bleak. Then in 1980, just 2 years after that walk, when I was the governor of Tennessee, Nissan from Japan arrived and came to Rutherford County. Then General Motors with Saturn came to Spring Hill. Then Volkswagen came to Chattanooga, all with large manufacturing plants. As the American automobile industry moved to the southeastern United States, more than 900 auto parts suppliers spread across 88 of Tennessee's 95 counties. And today, 136,000 Tennesseans, or 1/3 of our manufacturing workforce, work in those auto plants. Those auto jobs have become the main driver of family incomes, which now have risen to a little above the national average. Our economy's booming, unemployment's at a record level, and unemployment is at a record low. Tennessee today produces 6.7% of all the cars and trucks produced in the United States. Tennessee exported more than $5.5 billion worth of automobiles and auto parts last year. Tennessee has been the top state in auto manufacturing strength for 5 out of the last 8 years, according to business facilities. So let me get back to my little story. Last year, one of those bright twins from Rutherford County, from the Knight family, where I spent the night 40 years ago, Randy Knight, retired as the general manager of the Nissan plant, which is the largest and most efficient auto plant in North America. His brother works there too, and so does one of those grandchildren that the grandmother thought she would never see. You can see why Tennesseans become very worried when anything threatens the auto industry that has transformed our state. And here's why the proposed tariffs do that. Tariffs, as the senator from Alabama said, are taxes. Tariffs are taxes on us, pure and simple. They make what we buy and sell more expensive. The laws of economics usually mean that when you make what you buy and sell more expensive, you buy and sell less of it. If we sell fewer automobiles and automotive parts, there will be lower revenues, lower profits, fewer wage increases, and fewer jobs. Since almost every one of the 900 auto parts suppliers use steel and aluminum, lower revenues and lower profits mean fewer wage increases and fewer jobs for the 136,000 Tennesseans who work in the more than 900 auto plants in our state. More expensive cars mean fewer people in the United States buy those cars, and fewer people overseas buy those cars, the cars that we make. Fewer people buying cars and trucks means that 136,000 Tennesseans in America's #1 auto state are going to have a lower standard of living than they otherwise would, and lower family incomes. So why in the world would our government raise our taxes and destroy our jobs in this way? Well, the government's answer is that tariffs protect jobs in the steel and aluminum industry. Well, it is true that some steel and aluminum jobs might be saved, but in 2003, when President George W. Bush proposed steel tariffs, the effect of them was that 10 times as many people in the steel using industry, like auto parts, as there were in the steel producing industry lost their jobs. Let me say that again. 10 times as many people in steel using industries lost their jobs as there were gains in the steel producing industries. President Bush dropped the idea after a year because the tariffs destroyed, as I said, more jobs in other industries, including the automotive industry, than it saved in steel producing industry. I know something about the aluminum industry. My dad worked most of his life at Alcoa's Tennessee aluminum smelting plant, which closed a few years ago because electricity was so much cheaper in other parts of the world. You use electricity, lots of it, to smelt aluminum. That's why those plants came to East Tennessee more than a century ago. But electric prices in the United States have gradually risen over that century, and they're still cheap in other parts of the world. So today there are only 8 smelting plants left in the United States, 7 of them still in operation. Alcoa operates 4 and makes 46%, nearly half, of all the aluminum produced in the United States. Alcoa opposes the aluminum tariffs because it also operates smelting plants in Canada and other countries that export aluminum to the United States. So the bottom line is this, Mr. President. The largest U.S. producer of aluminum, Alcoa, doesn't want the aluminum tariffs. The thousands of auto plants and other plants that use aluminum don't want the aluminum tariffs. So who is asking for these aluminum tariffs? A second reason justifying tariffs is that other countries may have been unfair to the United States. There may be examples of that. But when did it become a good idea to solve your own problem by shooting yourselves in both feet at once? It's hard to see how raising our taxes and destroying our jobs is a smart solution to unfair trade practices. Then there is the question of whether tariffs help auto workers or not. Raising taxes and prices and selling fewer cars wouldn't seem to help the American auto worker. Will it cause foreign companies to build more cars in the United States? Well, that's already happening. The foreign manufacturers have been doing exactly what we asked them to do. They have moved here, they produce cars and trucks here, they export many of those cars and trucks and auto parts to other countries. Today, about half the cars being built in America are being built by the so-called foreign manufacturers. Nissan's plant in Rutherford County employs 8,000 Tennesseans and is the largest and most efficient auto plant in our country, in North America. I was with President Trump last year when he spoke in Michigan about all the auto worker jobs leaving the Midwest. Well, 3.6 million of those jobs did leave the Midwest since 1994, but they didn't go overseas. They moved to Tennessee and to Alabama and other parts of the southeastern United States, which gained 3.6 million auto jobs during the same period. Those new auto plants are in Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, South Carolina, Kentucky, and Texas, all states where the president is widely admired, states that he carried heavily in his election effort. Those plants moved primarily to the Southeast because our part of the country offered right-to-work laws and an environment that allowed companies to make quality cars at a lower cost and sell them competitively here in the United States and around the world. In fact, my own view is that the movement of the American auto industry to the Southeast saved the American auto industry, because where it was 25, 30, or 40 years ago was stuck in the Midwest in an oligopoly with United Auto Workers and 3 big companies, and they were producing big, expensive cars, and the little foreign cars were coming in and eating their lunch in the marketplace. So now we have strong and effective American auto plants in the Midwestern United States and in the Southeastern United States, and half of them are made by so-called foreign manufacturers. Mr. President, I agree with President Trump on many things: taxes, judges, regulation, the economy, Keystone Pipeline, other things. He's helped create today's booming economy and low unemployment. I give him credit for helping to do that. But these tariffs take us in exactly the opposite direction. These tariffs are dangerous. These tariffs are going to cost us jobs. These tariffs are going to lower our family incomes. These tariffs are going to undo much of the good that the President and this Congress have done during the last year and a half to create this booming economy. I respectfully suggest that the President reconsider his trade policy, drop the tariffs as a tool for implementing his objectives, and find other, more effective means to persuade other countries to do for us what we do for them. I thank the President, and I yield the floor.